Stormtroopers! On the double! Fire!
Well, hello there, this is Luke and Todd from the Scoundrel's Cantina, and welcome to another video. In this video, we'll be going through Andor Season 1 and why it's absolutely phenomenally made from both a visual standpoint, an acting standpoint, and most importantly, phenomenal writing all the way through, filled with purpose and meaning. Also, for the first time ever, after 7 years on YouTube, we have our first sponsor. So this video is sponsored by Skillshare, which has a special offer for the viewers of the Scoundrel's Cantina. So keep watching, and let's begin. Andor is set 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, aka 5 years before the events of Rogue One, in which this series is based on. It is a spin-off series off of Rogue One, aka the only good Star Wars movie from Disney so far, which further expands the reason why it's better than the rest, just as Rogue One was in comparison to the sequels and to Solo. None of us ever thought that Andor was going to be any good at all, especially because it's based on such a small character in comparison to some others in the Star Wars galaxy, and especially because Disney has spammed the hell out of a whole lot of unnecessary Star Wars series which turned out to be nostalgia-baited, badly written, nonsensical garbage. The storytelling has got to be the best reason why Andor succeeded in bringing something new and respectful to the legacy of George Lucas, something which other live-action Star Wars has barely been able to do, with Rogue One being the exception. The reason for it is that it has a clear view of the era it's in, where it's starting, and exactly where it's supposed to go. Unlike the Book of Boba, Kenobi, The Mandalorian, and some others, it has a meaningful story of rebellion leading to the stealing of a crucial part of the Death Star plans just before A New Hope. The Empire's presence and how it's getting more stricter with the simplest of insurrections greatly shows how it will grow the rebellion against the Matrix. Andor is based on the everyday people in the Star Wars galaxy that are not Force wielders and powerful, and all they have is the skills, knowledge, and experiences that make them who they are. All that is left for them to decide is what to do with the time and the situations that are given to them, as Gandalf would say. So with that said, it's time for you to decide what to do with your time, which brings us to our sponsor Skillshare, which offers something new for everyone. If you don't know what Skillshare is, it is an online community where millions of people come to take their next step in their creative journey. They have tens of thousands of online courses,
with 1 million more well on the way.
That's good news.
Did you ever wonder how those Death Star super laser panel joints were made at Narkina 5? Well, you could probably find a course for that on Skillshare as well, or who knows, maybe even a program to help you rise through the ranks of the Grand Army of the Republic.
We take great pride in our combat education and training programs.
Nonetheless, what interested us the most were courses regarding new video editing skills and software, as it's something that we do on a regular basis here for the channel. What also interests us is animation, which is an incredibly useful skill to, for example, make Star Wars animated short films, which we would love to do. Skillshare has something for absolutely anyone, whether you'd like a career-focused class, or to simply explore and break into a creative industry and find your creative voice and style. Who knows, you might want to be a skilled artist like the Mandalorian Sabine Wren of the Ghost Crew, or own a cover-up business on Coruscant like Luthen Rael and be your own boss. Make a jump to hyperspace in 2023 with this exclusive offer and try Skillshare for 7 days free and then get 20% off for your first year. The link is in the video description down below.
Come on, New Zealand, try something new. There are no words.
The Kenobi series gave the fans a story without any stakes whatsoever that didn't grow their characters in any way and existed just for a cheap nostalgia cash grab with tons of continuity errors and nonsense. Book of Boba Fett disgraced the legacy character just like Kenobi did, as did the sequels before it, and had no real reason or purpose in its own show but to promote The Mandalorian. And The Mandalorian is based in a half-dead era that leads to the dreaded sequels, which means towards a pointless rehash of a much better story which were George Lucas's trilogies and has no real reason to exist. It has a simple side quest story which is undone by the Book of Boba Fett and is left purposeless that will try to push towards the sequels and make sense of stuff that doesn't have any. Andor suffers from none of those things, and as seen before, Disney works best with their own characters instead of with pre-existing ones. It's seen throughout Star Wars Rebels, Jedi Fallen Order, and Rogue One, as for some reason they don't end up disrespecting them at all but do them justice. Andor was a pleasant surprise because no one expected it to be so well written because of the extremely lowered standards thanks to the other live action shows. It even feels like it's made with a much higher budget due to the set pieces and the much better done CGI mixed with practical effects. The story focuses much more on the everyday people of the Star Wars galaxy and what they talk about, which is new for a Star Wars show or movie and adds so much more immersion into the Star Wars galaxy, such as would only be experienced in a video game with NPCs talking about random stuff. At first we thought that it was really bad and boring because of the first 3 episodes, but immediately after that it really grew on us due to the Aldhani arc, which was absolutely phenomenal and in a very short time made you care about the characters just because of the well written and stretched out dialogue. After the rewatch of the first 3 episodes, it was obvious the story was leading somewhere despite too much dialogue of newly never before seen characters, which at first bored us. The show also doesn't shove it in your face in order to let the audience know of its Easter eggs, but is very vague about it, such as with Yularen of the ISB for example. It never mentions his name, but the fans who know the galaxy immediately recognize him. It never reveals such stuff through dialogue for the sake of fan service, but lets its viewers come to their own conclusions, or it simply visually pays off in the end, if you pay enough attention to it. Sadly, the bad reputation of the other live-action shows really destroyed Andor's audience, which for the most part didn't care about it much, expecting it to be bad like the rest. If you ask us, it is by far the best Star Wars live-action TV show, although Rogue One and the animated series are another thing completely and masterpieces of their own like Rebels and the Clone Wars. The visual aspect and cinematography of the series seem to have a much higher budget than the other shows, although if it doesn't, then they did a much better job with what they had. It is visually stunning and has amazing sequences like for example the Eye of Aldhani and many other beautifully done events and places. Interestingly enough, a whole lot of planets are actually filmed at real life locations and are just updated with some CGI backgrounds and some extra details. At first we thought the music was very unimaginative, but it really grew on us as the season went on with its similar sounding themes which were consistent through the season. The story managed to make a boring character like Andor into an actual presence on the screen where you enjoy the dialogue with him and almost everything that was happening, which is something very unexpected if you ask us. It really made boring things interesting once you immerse yourself into it. Also, one of the biggest reasons why we consider it a success is that it has no wokeness in it whatsoever, which is always a good thing. The diversity that they like to bore us with and virtue signals seem completely natural in this without it feeling forced, which is very rare for Hollywood these days, and there was no sexualization of any kind as there shouldn't be in Star Wars. It was simply the way it was originally established in episodes 1 to 6 by George Lucas's Star Wars.
I love you.
I know.
The pacing is quite slow, but it pays off every 3 episodes when the events culminate in some way, and the theme is much darker than Star Wars was ever seen before. There is desperation in the characters' motivations and missions as they try to fight through an impenetrable system, going all out to have total control of the galaxy and its people. There are little to none nonsensical character motivations, and actions actually have consequences as both the characters, the planets, and the factions have massive repercussions for what they choose to do. Since the series doesn't do the nostalgia bait thing at all, they really managed to bring back some great already established characters that we've seen before, but not out of nostalgia reasons as all of them were logically needed for the story to work, which also made sense for their own existence in the galaxy in that era. Saw Gerrera, Mon Mothma, and Yularen are exactly those, and we believe much more will join them as the rebellion progresses towards the original trilogy. Overall, Season 1 of Andor was phenomenal, and we definitely consider it as canon for ourselves in our personal headcanon, which is just a means of being able to enjoy Star Wars in this day and age where franchises are being disrespected by Hollywood non-stop. We personally believe that Andor, Rogue One, Star Wars Rebels, Jedi Fallen Order, Bad Batch, and the Clone Wars Season 7 are all part of the EU timeline in our headcanon, and we'll treat it as such for the sake of our personal enjoyment of this broken and divided franchise. And to this day, we stand by the Return of the Jedi being the culmination of all these stories in George Lucas's Star Wars as the happy ending of the Star Wars story. Anyway guys, this is it on the video, and we hope you all enjoyed it and learned something new about the vast galaxy of Star Wars. If you enjoy our content, make sure to check out our second lore channel, The Crossroads Inn, and if you want to watch more videos like this one, the links to the playlist of our other Star Wars stories and videos will be down below. Also, if you want to support this channel, hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one. And remember guys, God is awesome, may the Force be with you always, and we'll see you in another video. You Rebel Scum.
This party's over.